In a previous class, there was a question, and the question was about creating a tabbed base menu. So if you want to create a tabbed base menu, which basically when you click on one of the links, okay, what will happen is the link which you've clicked on will appear to be the active selected tab. All right. Now we can do this with JavaScript. There's more than one way to do this, and we can do this with JavaScript, which is more complicated than it really needs to be. We can basically accomplish a tabbed menu using just HTML and CSS. And here's how to do it. So I want to point out first that in this demo, I'm just creating a container. And we're just having this container position in the center of the browser window. Then I have an element, which is a nav element. Inside the nav element are 1, 2, 3, 4 divs. Each div has an anchor or a link. Okay, now let's take a look at the source code to start. You can see that I have tab menu 01, so I just have my first page. My page links to the style sheet, which is style CSS. Okay, so I'm starting off by building this page first. We then have our styles, which we are linking to. Here is the container. Here is the nav element with the class main nav, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 divs. Each div will have an anchor, which will go to one of our 4 pages. So the first div will go to tab menu 1 HTML, this one to tab menu 2, 3, and 4. Now you will notice in this first div, I'm placing an ID, and the name of my ID is current page. And then, well, let's finish going over the CSS and then we'll come back to this part. All right, so let's take a look at our CSS. Now what I'm going to point out first is this example is responsive. So it's meant to have the menu respond to the width or understand the width of a device and then respond to that width. So the rules which you see up here, these are the rules for a mobile device. And if you're not creating a responsive layout for this assignment, for this exercise, then don't worry about these rules up here at the top, other than the container and our box sizing border box. Okay? The rules underneath are specific to a mobile view. And I'll show you that here in a second, or in a minute or two. So let's scroll down, and what we're going to look at is I have a media query. Again, if you are not creating a responsive layout, you don't need to worry about this media query. You can just begin adding your rules. Okay? This is only detecting, or I should say, this is detecting to see when the width of the device or the screen exceeds 599 pixels in this example. All right, being said, here is our main menu. You'll notice that the position is relative. I'm setting a top and a left, and then we're setting a width of 200 pixels and a height of auto. What is important here is the display is flex, the flex direction is row, and the flex wrap is no wrap. Okay, so the main menu, the dimensions which you use for the main menu, it's going to depend on your menu which you are creating for your project. I'm only doing this as an example. Okay, now main menu, and then we have our greater than sign div. So what we're doing is we're targeting the descendant divs inside of main menu. So those 4 divs. I'm setting a width and a height of 50 pixels, and then we're just going to set the text align to center. Now the width up here is 200 pixels, the height is auto. So the way this is going to work out is because the flex direction is a row, we're going to have 4 of these divs lay out horizontally. Okay. Now, each of the divs have a link inside, so we need to take care of our style for the link. And you'll notice I'm also dealing with the visited state. So we have our anchor, which is a link. The anchor is inside the div. The div is a descendant of main nav. Okay? So I'm just setting the font size, the line height, some color, a background color, and a border so we can see. And then I'm setting the display to block. This is important because I want the color to go and fill in that entire 50 pixel width and 50 pixel height. All right, so let's scroll down just a little bit more. Then you'll see we have our hover state and our active state. All I'm doing is changing the background. So in the link state, we have our background color. In the hover state, our background color will slightly change. Okay. And then this is what's important. I have main nav, and then inside, what we're doing is we're looking for the descendant div, and we're looking for a particular ID. In this case, # current page is our ID. And you'll notice there's no space here because this ID is directly in this div. Okay, so we are going to target the div with this ID directly inside, and then the anchor. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to change the background color to an element which has this ID directly inside. And this rule is the last rule, meaning it follows the rules above, so this takes precedence. All right, so now let's go back to our source code. And again, you'll see in this first descendant div for page 1, we have the ID current page. Now, at this point, you can copy paste your 4 pages, where we would end up with page 2, 3, and 4. And let's just take a look at page 2 here. You'll notice that the ID current page, I moved to the second descendant div. And then what would be the third page, the ID goes in the third div, and then the fourth div for the fourth page. Okay? So basically all that's happening is when we click on one of the links and we go to a particular page, if that page has ID current page in its corresponding div, then it will override the background color of the anchor, and it will add the override color. So again, we would end up with, this is page 1, and we have that ID current page in the first div on page 1. Our second page has the ID in the second div, the third, and then the fourth. Okay? And it's as simple as that for creating your tabbed menu. Now, where you place the tabs, I would assume you might want your tabs up across the top, but that's up to you. I'm just showing you basically how to set this up. The style of your tabs, the placement of your tabs, if there's images inside your tabs, if there's animation inside your tabs, that's all entirely up to you. But this is your start point for creating a tabbed menu. Now, let's go back and just so there's an awareness, again, the initial example is assuming a desktop. So you wouldn't, if you're not doing a responsive layout, you're not going to need to worry about the media query. Okay? So what if you wanted to have the menu change in some way when you were in a mobile view? Well, that's easy enough, and all we need to do is change a couple of things in the main menu. Okay? And we can also look at main menu and our greater than div, targeting the descendants. So if we scroll up, I always set up where my initial styles are the mobile view. So you'll notice now here in the main menu, I changed the position to fixed. I'm changing the top to 40 pixels from the top of the page. The left will be 0. The width is still 50 pixels. The height is still auto. The display is flex. But now we're changing the flex direction to a column. So instead of laying out horizontally, now our menu will lay out vertically. So when the page, in the example I have, assuming that you do want to go down the path of a responsive layout, when the page is less than 600 pixels, then you will get a menu which lays out in a fixed position, and that fixed position can be anywhere within your viewport. And with flex, I changed the direction from a row to a column, okay? And then once the page is 600 pixels or wider, then we with our media query, we are loading the menu, which changes the flex to row. So it's pretty much as straightforward as that for creating a tabbed menu. With a little extra effort, you can create a responsive tabbed menu for your exercise. Now, below the video, there will be links to the source code in an archive file which you can download. I will place the archive files both on the Rogue server, and I will place the archive files on the Mat server also for the respective classes. Okay.